I'm Thorin Link. I'm a professional options and futures trader, and I wanted to share with you the daily watch list for the 15th of April. So, I'm first going to start with the market. The SPY is setting up pretty nicely for an hourly high low, holding back above the lows, which are the September lows from last year. But also the 4 hour, there is some downside pressure on a break below, though I do think these highs can hold very nicely. So generally, I would say the market is setting up more bullish if it is actually able to manage to break above the 542 here and make some upside continuation. Meanwhile, the Qs are setting up very deadly. I think on a fail below this hourly here, I think there's some downside into the 449s on a break and retest kind of environment maybe. Recaptures are super crucial here, but the reason why I say this is because the 4 hour is setting up quite bearish here on the Qs, in my opinion. So I do think we could see the temporary pullback, as well as I think the broader market looking at these names, shorts are definitely stronger. While they're not in the big names, they're still nicer short opportunities today, I think, than there are longs. So that's just something to be kept in mind. But I'm going to get right into the longs. First long today is going to be Uber. I was talking about this yesterday as well for the long idea, and it started to hold the Friday high here, but I didn't really find an entry yesterday, and I didn't think it was that clean. But now it's setting up this nice 30-minute / hourly high low of the closing move back above these highs. So if we're able to break above the 7345 here, and just get some nice follow through upside, I think this is a very strong low, very strong long here. The 4 hour doesn't look amazing, but the daily does look really nice. And I think there's a lot of upside continuation in this, especially if the market is bullish today indeed. Apple, I think Apple saw some selling off yesterday, but it's now retesting this really important previous all-time high zone on a break and retest after opening up way higher. There seems to be some pretty strong lows above, but I do think that moves into here, the 200, can be very, very strong for a reversal. This might take some time for sure, and the 4 hour doesn't look amazing. There seems to be downside pressure on it, but I wouldn't be short into these highs, and therefore just patiently today and maybe tomorrow wait for the turnaround at this level. Then one thing to keep in mind is Pepsi. Pepsi did see a nice upside move, which I made a video about or talked about in the video yesterday, but now it's opening up way back below. I'm not sure if that's news related or not. But what we would want to see out of Pepsi right now is recaptures of the 146 area. Otherwise, if it bounce rejects, it's just very dead and the trade's gone. I don't think the short is nice here in this moment. As you can see, the daily is setting up more long. I don't think the short is that nice. Then Microsoft, I just want to have on here as I think it's a bit more long than not, but I don't really see a trade in this chop here. I think either level seems strong, rejection seems strong above, holding these highs does seem strong as well. Probably want to wait for a break in either direction. Affirm is kind of, I only have this on here because it's kind of doing what I thought it might do with this head and shoulders. Even though it looks a bit different now, it has held this high here and made the right shoulder in a way. So I do think if we can break above here, make the hourly high low afterwards and close, I think there is upside continuation playing out this head and shoulders, which I thought about on over the weekends. So it does seem to kind of do my intuition was right in this moment. But let's move on to the shorts here, which I said are a lot more interesting today in my opinion, which doesn't mean that I want to be short biased going into the day, but it does mean that this is where the main idea is. And generally, if we see a weak market, I think these names can work out really well. On a strong market, I would be very careful. But I think some of the setups are this good that even if the market seems a bit stronger, maybe you could see and look to short them, especially as they're not necessarily market drivers. So they could also go a bit counter trend as well. I mean, I know like AMD, looking at this, you can already see it tried to move back above these lows, just got no follow through off the open, just dumped lower, and now setting up this perfect hourly lower high back below these lows, rejecting these lows from over here, which is just super strong. It's already opening up a bit lower, and I think it could just be a flush off the open. So you might want to be quick with this, but also not completely panic into it. That's really important as well, as risk is quite high. So you do need you would have to place risk all the way up here, which is why I'm saying it's quite high. you would probably want to find a better entry for this, especially as you're going into these highs here. I do think though overall the 4 hour is looking incredibly strong. So I do think there's a downside in this, especially if the market is weak as well. Marvell, once again, looking more short. Try to open above, projected lower, just flushing lower, setting up the hourly lower high, similar to AMD is, with the 4 hour looking pretty decent as well. This seems to be a very strong level here to 51s, where buyers just keep on stepping up. So you might want to be patient here and see if we can see a break of this level first of 5150 and then see downside continuation. Or if you get a really good entry, you might just short this aggressively for the hourly lower high and then look at how it develops around the zone and then maybe de-risk into it if you're not too comfortable with the position. Roblox is try to open up above these lows, and I was actually looking for this to long yesterday, but it didn't work out. And now it's also setting up this hourly lower high here. I think if we can see a close on the hourly for the lower high, completing it in a way, I think there's some downside pressure in this. The 4 hour also looks a bit more like downside pressure here if it's able to break below this 4 hour 3 bar after rejecting these important lows. I think this could be interesting. If the spreads are good enough and the risk is tight enough, I think this is definitely worth a shot. But you gotta be careful as it's still a bit like counter trend if you short it immediately. So you probably want to be patient on this as well. Coinbase is setting up really, really nicely here for this head and shoulders hourly, making the hourly lower high, as you can see again, getting no further through above. Similar, you can see there are very similar themes throughout the market, and just looking to move lower here. 4 hour, similar to Roblox, is looking very, very short here, but you want to be careful about not going counter trend too aggressively here, especially on a name which is so related to Bitcoin, and whatever happens to Bitcoin happens to Coinbase. So you probably want to be careful about this. But I do think if you can see some nice like confirmation lower and like especially closes lower, I think it's worth taking a shot at. Snowflake is also fading back inside. And it has this kind of like building up this kind of bear flag here with the 4 hour looking incredibly short back below these lows from over here, March. The only thing I don't like is we're going in a bit of a chop. You can see a lot of volatility in this area here, as well as going into the 200 daily, which usually is like, if we're going into the from above, it can hold us support pretty nicely. So you want to be careful about that as well. For the downside continuation, or well, not the continuation lower. Then quickly, last name that I'm really interested in is actually Roku, fading back below the lows as well. 4 hours setting up pretty clean here. Again, same idea. Don't go counter trend too much. Maybe wait for it to close, wait for it to properly switch here on the hourly before going short. And also for Roku, watch out for the spread as well. Then quickly, just Amazon, I think is more short than long, but I don't really see the setup here, to be totally honest. Same idea with Google. If it bounces higher again, I think this is short below, too strong of a hold. Similar with Broadcom, we do need to see some breaks below here first and then break and retest for the continuation lower, but this level up here rejected once again, so there seems to be some strong downside pressure on this. But if it's opening up higher and making this hourly higher low, you could even play the bounce. And then Nvidia, I just don't see anything on Nvidia, to be totally honest. I haven't for quite a while, and I don't know, it's not a nice stock to trade right now. But this is my daily watch list. I hope you enjoyed. You saw some nice setups that you might trade. With that being said, stay safe out there, traders. STG.